I'm going to let you come on. You're welcome to come up here and do that and be part of this. Okay, so now 10 o'clock, close enough. So welcome everybody, cell phones. How many people have participated in the show and tell at our annual meetings? It's a great time. Sometimes it's Friday, sometimes it's Saturday. Jim King, are you in here?
Yeah.
All right, Jim King is going to be the guy in charge of the show and tell, and he's going to yell real loud and tell you what's going on.
9 o'clock tonight in the exhibit hall. We're just going to pull up some chairs in a circle. We've got some new people here, probably don't know what we do, so I'll just briefly explain it. One of our former members and really one of the pillars of this organization, and frankly the man that I consider largely responsible for getting us into the relatively solid financial condition we're in today, Ray Cheeley. Ray would bring some extraordinary guns, extremely nice condition, rare stuff, historical stuff. He would wait around in the gun room until about 11 o'clock or later at night until nobody was left in there but the diehards. And then he would do a little show and tell. After Ray passed away, I asked his wife Cheryl if she would mind if I continued to do a show and tell in Ray's honor, and her answer was, I wish you would. So I have continued that. It's informal. We're just going to pull up our chairs. Anybody has anything interesting that you'd like to share or pass around, bring it. We'll ask you to stand up and tell us about it, show us that it's unloaded, and then we'll pass those around and look at them. So look forward to seeing anybody interested at 9 o'clock tonight in the exhibit hall. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jim. So 9 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be there. It's a great time. You get to see some stuff that may or may not actually be on some of the display tables now, because the really cool stuff comes out. So, second thing that I got to say is the man back there on the tripod taking pictures and making that lightning happen is Jess Lucio. Jess Lucio has been our designated and volunteer and highly talented photographer for a long, long time. He does a great job. Anybody gets the journals, you see the great photographs that Ray Lucio puts in. Our vice president is the head of the display committee. He is currently putting the display numbers on all the displays. Please see Jess Lucio when there is a display number on your table, so the photograph will capture that number so we know who it is for the journal. Starting as soon as the numbers get on, which they're halfway, because Jim King's doing it, and
we're about 3/4 of the way through.
They're about 3/4 of the way through. So if there is a number already on your table, or when the number appears on your display table, get a hold of Jess, say I'm ready, and he will take a really cool photograph of you and your display that will come up. I think it's in the Summer Journal, which documents our annual meetings here every year, and it's a lot of fun. Now, when we were in the meeting yesterday, the board meeting, our chairman of the board, Mr. Roy Jinks, proposed and had an item for us, first time here at this exposition. He has some great Smith & Wesson stationery. And if you have a gun or a serial number, he has in his computer, this might be it, he has in his computer the records, so he can immediately give you a handwritten, documented letter with your serial number, with the date of manufacture, where it was shipped, and all that kind of stuff. This is the bargain of the century. If you're here, $20, and that $20 will go to the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association, and you can have a handwritten letter by Roy Jinks here today, or at least by the time the symposium is over. So think about it. The money goes to a great cause. It goes to our association, and you have the opportunity to have our chairman of the board, the historian of Smith & Wesson, personally handwrite you a letter, which is going to be really, really valuable down the road. So I want to let that go. Go visit the silent auction. And everybody, I think, here has been to a silent auction for some charity somewhere, somehow. So we're not reinventing the wheel. And if you don't have a bidder number, we can take care of that. And we're going to make a lot of money for the association. And the association supports the Connecticut Valley Historical Museum. It also supports the Smith & Wesson Historical Foundation. And we try to make sure that that really happens and does a good job. The cocktail party is tonight at 10 o'clock. Does anybody know where it's going to be? I'm sorry. Cocktail party. Hey, you guys are paying attention. I like that. Cocktail party tonight at 6 o'clock. Does anybody know where it's going to be? Rex Halfpenny. Where's the cocktail party? All right. Put that on the to-do list.
Well, it's supposed to be set up right outside the exhibit hall, right there, that area outside the exhibit hall.
Thank you very much. Where all those tables are and all those chairs and stuff like that. So that's really good. During every off exhibit hall, like right now, the exhibit room is closed. And it's going to happen several times. It's closed for the banquet. It's closed for the general membership meeting, which will be here tomorrow. No, what's today?
Saturday.
Saturday. Thank you. See, I got such a great bunch of people here, I'll tell you. And so the exhibit hall is going to close. Our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Valentine, is going to get on the little microphone out there, and he's going to say, ladies and gentlemen, the exhibit hall is closed. We really appreciate it when you hear that you quit what you're doing and you exit and go either to where you want to go to a lecture. You're not obligated to do it, but I suggest you do it because it's a one-time deal. And we'll do that. So our Sergeant at Arms would really appreciate, the lollygagging to be at the absolute minimum. So that's going on. The last thing is, what used to be the midnight pricing panel is now the 2 p.m. pricing panel. And Jim Sapika is asking for help from all of our members because they are compiling the last part of the standard catalog of Smith & Wesson edition 4. And if you remember 1, 2, and 3, they had current prices at that time. And as we all know, you never buy a gun for too much. You might buy it a little early, but you never pay too much for a gun. And the prices of the guns have increased substantially. And Jim Sapika and where's Mr. Nahas are going to have the pricing panel at 2 p.m. today. Today's Thursday, right? Today, Thursday, and at 2 p.m. Friday. So we're going to have a little panel, and they're really going to appreciate your input because you're the guys that have recently bought guns. You're the guys and gals who know what the current prices are. So they're really going to have your input can go into the 4th edition of the standard catalog of Smith & Wesson. With that, I'm done. Anybody got any questions? Well, you got me here? Okay, good. At this point, I think Roy Jinks is ready to go. Rex, you got anything to address us? This is our event coordinator, Rex Halfpenny, who has done an excellent job getting us here in Spokane. Rex has also locked down Baton Rouge, Louisiana for next year. He has also locked down Charlotte, North Carolina for 2017. For 2018, this is super secret, I don't want you to tell anybody. For 2018, it looks as if we're going to be in Reno, Nevada. In 2019, this is really secret, 2019, we're looking at San Antonio, Texas. And 2020, which is the 50th anniversary of the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association. How many were here for the 25th? 25th and 19th. But the 25th anniversary was spectacular. And I, for one, never thought I'd be around for the 50th. And here I am, old guy, retired, and I'm as happy as can be to be expecting the 50th anniversary of the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association. So we're in the works now, trying to figure out where we're going to have it. I know where I would like to have it. I have some 25th anniversary commemoratives. I would like to see a homecoming for the 50th. But that is how far we're thinking into the future for everybody, so everybody has plenty of time. And the theme for Baton Rouge will be probably announced by the end of this symposium. We're working on it, and I've polled everybody, and everybody's pretty much on board with what's going to be the theme. So that's another super secret piece of information that you're going to get by being here. So with that, I'd like to introduce the chairman of the board of the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association, the founder, serial number 1, and the guy who is responsible for 45 years of Smith & Wesson collectors getting together and having a great time. Mr. Jinks, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. There's a couple things I want to say. First place, we'll do the shipping information as rapid as we can handle it. I'm not writing them. My wife Jean is writing them, therefore you'll be able to read them. I will sign it in that sense. And all it's going to include is the date shipped and to whom it was sold. You know, that's the only information we have on the computer. The information and those serial number stuff is for any of the pocket models from 1875, the top brakes, up through most of the guns made up through to about 1980, 87, maybe 86. The real late triple alpha for numeric stuff, that's all on Smith & Wesson's computer, and the only way I can get that is log on to their computer, and I cannot do that from out here. I can only do that from home. So that's the limitations on it. This is a sort of a really special show for me because of the fact that I have my daughter and my son-in-law and my grandchildren here for the first time. My daughter is not new. Will you please stand up? My daughter hasn't been to an SWCA collector show since she was a little girl. But she is the one who was helpful and responsible for the S&W Collectors Association winning the first major NRA trophy at Philadelphia, what, 1976 or so? And so she's not new to this. So it's a real pleasure for me and sort of a tearjerker to have my daughter here and my grandkids. And it's the first time I've seen them in a year, so it's really special. So let's move on, if I can make everything work. So in today's collecting world, there is a big emphasis to find a mint gun in the original box, or to put it in a box with the original type, find the original wrapping paper, and all the accessories. Yes, that's an outstanding addition to a collection, but the only story it has to tell is what drawer it was stored in, out of sight, and not contributing to any history except that Smith & Wesson or another company produced a great gun. The purpose of this show and the theme, If My Gun Could Talk, was to try and bring out these guns that are worn from being carried by some cowboy, some sportsman, law enforcement officer, or target shooter who has fired thousands of rounds through the firearm. We should be proud to show these history makers and not keep them hidden and let them tell their stories. I have many such guns in my collection, and from time to time I drag them out, I sit at D.B. Wesson's desk, and I dream of where this gun has been, and did it help make any history. So in preparing this talk, I decided that I would let my imagination go and take a special gun from my vault and have it tell a story. And through me, tell a story through me. So it is now time for you to take a history journey as my gun tells you a tale, a walk with D.B. Wesson. In my vault, there is a very handsome cane that belonged to D.B. And each time I look upon it, I wonder where they have been together and what stories it might tell me. Also in my collection is D.B.'s day book, his many notes on his travel, and the beautiful diary he gave to his wife, Cynthia. As all these pieces came together in my mind, I realized that I did indeed have a story and that this cane is very much a part of the symposium theme. For this is no ordinary cane. It fires a 14 gauge, come on, projector. It fires a 14 gauge shell and very much needs to be a part of If My Gun Could Talk. As I started to imagine my journey with D.B. Wesson and this unique cane, I learned that the Wessons are of the old New England families that settled in Massachusetts in 1645. John Wesson, first settled in Massachusetts, was born in 1630 in Buckinghamshire, England. And according to family history, he came to the colonies as a stowaway at the age of 13. D.B.'s father was fourth generation, born in Massachusetts. Daniel B. Wesson was born on May 18, 1825, and was the seventh child born to Rufus and Bessie Wesson. His childhood was shared with a total of 8 siblings in a large house in Grafton, Massachusetts, which is located near Worcester, Mass. His father was very mechanically minded and well known for his production of plows. D.B. was also mechanically minded, and while on his father's farm was always carving stocks and making barrels out of scrap metal into small guns to test fire, in hopes that by showing his interest in firearms, his father would send him to his brother Edwin Wesson's rifle shop to learn how to build target rifles. However, old Rufus wanted D.B. to follow his older brother Martin's footsteps into the shoe business, which Rufus felt was a much more dignified business. In December of 1842, Daniel was finally able to convince his father to allow him to go to work with his brother Edwin in Northborough. Daniel Wesson was only 17 years old, and his father wanted Edwin to guarantee that he would take the responsibility to teach him properly, see that he got a good education. This agreement was drawn and signed on the 20th of December, 1842, and started D.B. Wesson into his long gun-making career. In brief, the terms of this agreement stated that Edwin would pay his father, Rufus, the sum of $250 within the next 3½ years. That Edwin would agree to board and clothe Daniel in a suitable manner, grant him 3 months of regular schooling, and give him all the necessary instruction to make him a master gun maker by the time he was 21. And so, at the age of 17, D.B. began to learn the gun-making business from Edwin, who is now recognized as one of the top rifle makers in America. Edwin's firearms were not cheap, or not inexpensive. You could be seen from the bill dated February 1, 1844. One rifle case, $35. One double shotgun, $40. One pistol, $30. Young Daniel was a fast learner and was soon building target rifles along with his brother, and although his specialty became long-range target pistols with detachable stock. But now D.B. learned how to build a good firearm. He learned how a business is operated and hands-on experience, as Edwin was frequently out of the office, out of the shop, in an effort to defend an exclusive patent for a false muzzle he had obtained from Alvin Clark in Boston, Massachusetts. This device, the device in question, aids in loading a target rifle more accurately. And in his agreement with Clark, he agreed to defend it against all infringers and to pay royalties on copies. D.B. learned that if you're going to enter into an agreement of this type, you want to be sure that you are protected from further entanglement. He also was introduced to many great names within the gun industry, such as Sam Cole, Eli Whitney, Cyrus Allen, and built several rifles for the famous Mexican hero, Captain Sam Walker. Another event that changed his life also happened in Northborough while he was actively learning the gun business in his brother's employment. Between 1844 and 1847, D.B. Wesson met Cynthia M. Hawes and began his courtship with this pretty and sophisticated lady. A serious romance developed, and in the spring of 1847, D.B. Wesson proposed to Cynthia. Cynthia's father, however, did not think that a gun maker was a suitable future husband and refused to allow the marriage. That did not stop the determined couple. They knew that they could get married without a license if they were married in Thompson, Connecticut, a lovely small town with a beautiful church on the town green that was known to marry eloping couples. Thus began a long and successful marriage that lasted for 59 years. Daniel had now completed his apprenticeship and was helping to manage his brother's business as a full-time employee. He built a special pair of pistols. Come on, Shane. He built a special pair of pistols as a final task to prove his skill. This pair of target pistols, which he cased, were in .31 caliber, and they were always a special remembrance of his time in learning the gun business. He never lost his love of working with his brother Edwin, and constructed long-range target pistols was his passion. In 1847, Edwin decides to expand his business and move to a larger, more prestigious city. And in March of 1848, he established his company in Hartford, Connecticut. On November 22nd, 1848, he also signs an agreement with D.B. to become a partner in the Edwin Wesson Rifle Company. This move to Hartford does not prove a successful venture, as the Wesson Rifle Company accumulated large debts in getting new manufacturing operations up and running. Edwin and D.B. Wesson took in numerous investors to help raise the necessary capital to expand the business while doing work for a coal manufacturing company to supplement their capital. Then on January 29, 1849, amidst an already growing number of problems, Edwin Wesson suffers a major heart attack and died. The creditors were quick to move in and take over the company, demanding to get paid back for their investment. Unable to keep the business alive, in the summer of 1849, the creditors forced the company to close. And on November 27, 1849, the company and all the machinery and unfinished firearms were sold at public auction. The Wesson Rifle Company made slightly more than 600 firearms from 1840 to 1849. The only thing that D.B. walked away with was his brother Edwin's order book, listing all the firearms they had made. At the end of the business, D.B. Wesson writes on the last page of the order book, "Thus ends the manufacture of rifles by the far-famed E. Wesson." He wrote these words several times in the order book, and then it follows with a statement which became his lifelong motto: "No thing of importance can be done without effort." At this point in my journey with the cane, I sense they are at a crossroad. D.B. wants to continue the tradition and start making rifles under his own name in a small shop in Hartford, Connecticut, but he's totally out of funds. Cynthia, however, has not lost faith in him and tells him she has saved some money which he can use to start the business. D.B. Wesson is joined by his brother Martin and Frank and together they start a small production of less than 70 finished rifles that look just like Edwin Wesson's rifle, except that D.B. Wesson, Hartford, Connecticut, is stamped on the barrel. These were tough times. It was hard to find a job to supplement his income. Wesson was approached by Allen Brown Luther Company to work with them on an invention by Colonel Porter. This was a repeating firearm featuring a revolving turret, which was loaded with numerous percussion charges that were fired by individual percussion caps. While experimenting with the firearm, D.B. Wesson almost had a fatal accident. All adjoining charges, some of which were pointed to the rear, all fired, and a bullet nearly missed D.B. And yet another turn in the life of D.B. happened when Charles Leonard, Jr. hires him to oversee the production of the new Leonard Pepperbox pistol at the Robinson Lawrence factory in Windsor, Vermont. Daniel must have been impressed by the Leonard pistol, as he had his picture taken with his wife Cynthia holding the Leonard pistol in his left hand. It was in Windsor that D.B. meets Horace Smith. Horace was hired by Cortlandt Palmer to oversee the production of a repeating percussion rifle patented by Lewis Jennings. Palmer invested heavily in this rifle, which was first invented by Walter Hunt and improved upon by Jennings. The rifle fired a bullet that was filled with black powder, but could be fed into the chamber through a tubular magazine. However, each round had to be ignited by an individual percussion cap. Horace Smith invents an improvement to the Jennings rifle, which was patented on August 26, 1851. And production began of the Smith-Jennings rifle. It was while Horace Smith and D.B. Wesson are working on their separate projects that they began to discuss the merits of a repeating firearm and the possibility of finding a cartridge that was fully self-contained. By 1852, the men moved to Horace Smith's machine shop in Norwich, Connecticut, where the partners developed a new lever-action repeating pistol that fired a fully self-contained cartridge. By 1853, the new Smith & Wesson company began production of their new lever-action repeating pistol. Yet another downturn of events proved this venture unsuccessful. By 1855, the company is in financial trouble, and they are forced to sell their patents to Oliver Winchester in New Haven, Connecticut. After the sale, D.B. Wesson moves to New Haven to oversee the production of the firearms, and the company is renamed the Volcanic Arms Company and then New Haven Arms Company. Horace Smith and D.B., however, had an ace up their sleeve. On April 8, 1854, they patented a new cartridge, they patented a new cartridge. This patent was not included in the deal with Winchester. This proved to be a very pivotal step in the next phase of their life. Horace Smith, meanwhile, moves back to his hometown of Springfield, Mass. to work with his brother-in-law, Will Collins. D.B., while busy as foreman of the Volcanic Arms Company, continues his own experiment with the development of a revolver that would fire the self-contained rimfire cartridge that he and Horace had patented. Eventually, D.B. designs a small 7-shot revolver that fires a new rimfire cartridge and applies for a patent on the revolver, only to find that the key design of the revolver, the bored-through cylinder, allowing the revolver to be loaded through the rear, was already covered by a patent issued to Roland White on a percussion revolver. D.B. Wesson takes the train to Springfield to discuss the possibility of reestablishing the Smith & Wesson relationship to manufacture the newly designed rimfire revolver. They agreed to proceed with the idea pending the license from Roland Weiss to produce the firearm under his patent. D.B. Wesson does not waste any time and writes to Roland White on October 31, 1856. White responds on November 3, 1856, agreeing to consider a license. The agreement is written and signed on November 17, 1856. And on the next day, November 18, 1856, on November 17, 1856, and the next day, November 18, 1856, the company of Smith & Wesson is officially established. Horace Smith's cash input in the company is $1,646.18. And D.B. Wesson's in cash contribution is $2,003.63. Thus, Smith & Wesson, Springfield, Mass. was born. As I am privy to many conversations with his cane, it is now revealed to me that the next few years were tough going and hard work. The partners rented a place on Market Street in downtown Springfield, and design problems with the new revolver had to be resolved, and it was not until May of 1858 that production, as well as the cash flow, became possible. From this point the demand for the .22 7-shot continues to grow rapidly. By 1859, they had outgrown their space and began construction of a new Smith & Wesson factory on Stockbridge Street in the center of Springfield, and moved into the new plant in 1860. With the emergence of the Civil War, firearms sales began to increase, and the fact that Smith & Wesson held the exclusive rights to cartridge revolvers added to the profits of Horace and D.B. that they were receiving. D.B. Wesson and Cynthia moved to Springfield in a small rented house on High Street, and by 1860, the business became so profitable that D.B. starts construction of a larger house, also on High Street. He hires a domestic who is desperate for work while they are out with their architect looking for new ideas on their house. An unfortunate occurrence is reported by the Springfield Republic. The article reads, Margaret H., a blooming girl of about 16 years, a domestic in the family of D.B. Wesson, took advantage of the family's absence this week and appropriated for her own use a bountiful supply of dresses, parlor ornaments, etc., and left the city. She was followed by Officer Shaw and traced to Palmer, Willimantic, and Southampton, where she was found in the family of Mrs. Spooner, formerly of this city, and arrested and brought back to Springfield last night. She had lately been sentenced in a house of correction here for stealing clothes in Holyoke. While confined, she was a companion of Mrs. Spooner's, who was also serving a term for keeping a house of ill fame. The walking stick just says D.B.'s good intentions didn't always work out. The new High Street house is completed in 1860, and the family lives there until 1890, when the Wesson home is reborn as a hospital for women. As the company expands, it brings in large profits to both D.B. and Horace. In 1874, Horace decides to retire, and D.B. buys Horace's interest out in the company and becomes the sole owner. D.B. Wesson is now one of the wealthiest men in New England. By 1875, D.B. Wesson is giving some of the responsibility of running the business to his eldest son, Walter. This allows D.B. and Cynthia to get away from Springfield. In 1880, they leave on a worldwide trip, and D.B. and his cane get to travel with them across Europe on the Grand Tour. From Norway in July of 1870, They traveled to Moscow. And the stories I read are here of a nervous D.B. Wesson as Cynthia inspects the beautiful 10-carat diamond. They go on then to St. Petersburg to visit the Tsar. They visit England, France, Algiers, Belgium, Gibraltar, Lebanon, and Italy. In Florence, Italy, Cynthia does some serious shopping, and D.B. Wesson keeps a list of the things that they purchased. The three of them returned to the United States in January 1881. A tired walking stick tells me that that was the end of their worldwide travels, and that their real pleasure after this was to grab the cane and get into the carriage and ride around the countryside of New England. This old cane sure did have a lot of stories, and I spent many hours in D.B.'s office listening to some of them. And I hope you enjoyed sharing them with me. Thank you very much. I'd be glad to answer any questions that everyone has. The cane is a very, very interesting piece of memorabilia. I'm not absolutely sure when D.B. acquired it. There is a possibility that he actually built it. The shoulder stock that fits on the cane is very, very similar to all the shoulder stocks he put on the long-range target rifles he built when he was with his brother Edward. There are no patent, there are no proof marks, there's nothing on the cane, and it came out of the Wesson family with all the other memorabilia of the Wessons. His day books, his personal pocket watch, and everything else. That's my story of if my gun could talk, and I'm hoping that there's a bunch of you that have a lot of stories about your guns that can talk. Thank you very much.
Roy,
Yes.
where is the pair of pistols that D.B. built?
Where are they?
Yes, sir.
They're in my vault. They're about to go on display in the new exhibit that is going to open in probably late July at the Springfield History Museum, and with a lot of other special guns.
Roy, I don't know if I've seen this. Do we have an idea of how many revolvers Smith & Wesson sold during the Civil War period?
I did a talk on Smith & Wesson in the Civil War. I may have that on my computer, and I can actually look it up. I actually have the total number of handguns they sold during that up to 1865, and I also have the total number of cartridges they sold in all the different calibers at that same time frame. Was in that talk. So, and I may have that talk on my computer. I may be able to pull it up and look at it. So, but I can't, off the top of my head, remember it. I don't know if we published it in a journal.
Easy enough to check the list of journal articles.
Huh?
There's a list of journal articles they can check.
Yeah. Any other questions? I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Roy. Okay, we're waiting for the next speaker to arrive. He's not due to be here for about 30 minutes. We're going to take a break and ask you to be back in your chairs at 11. Oh, hang on, I think he may have just arrived. If he wants to do it early, we can do this early. Waz, would you like to start the next talk early?
Oh, that's okay.
Otherwise, there's going to be a half-hour break. So.
15 minutes.
Okay, we're going to take a 15-minute break. If you'd like to come back then, we'd love to see you in 15 minutes.